All right, so I'm still here in the lab, trying to piece things together. And I'm gonna walk you guys through just a series of events that led me to a point where I stumbled across probably what Luffy's Devil Fruit is. But it's a series of events where I feel like Oda has been showing us or telling us, of course it's very subtle, what Luffy's Devil Fruit is or what it could be.
Luffy, I
want to make this clear. A lot of these things, without context, they don't make sense. You can't just look at these things and say, hey, that's obvious. How did we miss this? No, it was easy to miss it. Some things are just Oda could have been trolling, but some of these things I'm like, okay, that's pretty clear now, but I'm gonna walk you guys through it, okay? Because chapter left me in shambles. You guys can tell from the videos I've made, currently still in shambles, trying to figure things out. So on videos, on comments, on Twitter, people are saying, hey, Brago, they tell me different pages to check out where they feel like Oda is telling them things. I'm in the middle of the Skypiea reread, okay? Because it's like Skypiea and everything that's going on right now, very relevant. Right? So I get to the chapter where Luffy's dancing around the fire. And I remember, this is one of Oda's favorite scenes. Then I go back to my source, Sandman AP, Sandman_AP. Yeah, this is a story of how Oda has been telling us about this shit. So just stay with me. Sandman_AP. He typically translates the interviews and things from Japan, and he's a very reliable source. So I was gonna go check out the exact panel to see, okay, why is this relevant? Because even in my comment section, people saying, Brago, check out chapter 488 and chapter 496. We'll get to that. Just remember those chapters 488 and 496, right? So I go to Sandman's page on Twitter, and then he's referencing some interviews. And then my wheels start to turn because one, back in 2016, when Kaido was introduced, Oda said that Luffy can't beat such a strong guy yet, right? And he doesn't yet know how Luffy will defeat him. We all talked about that. But then he said his audience will not be satisfied if the reason Luffy defeats Kaido is just by punching him really hard. So for him, he must find a solution for Luffy to defeat Kaido. I'll reference all these links below so you guys can go and fact check, but all of these are things translated by Sandman AP, okay? So following me so far? The next thing he referenced was in 2020 when Oda talked about his favorite scenes, and he referenced 3 scenes, which were his 3 favorite scenes in the entire story, right? These are crazy. Oda's 3rd favorite scene was chapter 253, when Luffy's dancing around the campfire, and this scene is what motivated him to draw the Skypiea arc. And this is what everyone references when we talk about Sun God Nika. Keep that in mind as well, because Sun God Nika will come back up. So again, this is his 3rd favorite. Sticking with this scene though, Sandman explains that the sound effects used in this scene was also used as drums of liberation. This is the image that people reference when they think of Sun God Nika and comparing him to Luffy, and the sound effects from this panel, Oda's 3rd favorite scene, is used as the drums of liberation. Things are getting wild now, okay? Now Oda's 2nd favorite scene is chapter 496. And I'm like, wait, is that the same chapter people have been telling me to go look at? I'm like, okay, why is this relevant? Well, in this scene, what Oda says is that it lends a feeling of realism. That's why he likes the scene so much. And when I first saw the scene, I was like, all right, it's a cool scene when you go back and look at it, but look at what's being said. They're at the mangroves in Skypiea, and Luffy's looking at the bubble coming out of the ground, but the scene that Oda loves is when Papag says, a unique kind of natural resin is secreted from the roots of the Yarukiman mangrove. Usopp said, ew, it's sticky, and Robin wipes it on him. Again, a feeling of realism. If you continue reading this chapter, Luffy's experimenting with these bubbles, and how Luffy goes from bubble to bubble is eerily similar to how his attacks are when he's in Gear 4. But also the explanation of these things, it's weird, because after all that with Sandman, I start to read it and I'm like, wait, hold on. The next panel says, when the roots breathe, air inflates the resin, making it float into the air. And Luffy's like, I see. So it's naturally like this. And how it's moving from panel to panel, it made me think of Gear 4, where it's inflated and it's floating, and how it's moving, it's natural. But the thing is, it's not like regular rubber. When you go into resin, it connects to rubber. And I'll talk about resin because I stumbled upon a compilation of just why Luffy's Devil Fruit is the subscribe button. Okay, not really, that's not part of the story, but it's part of this process, right? Maybe you're watching this, you're not subscribed yet. You're like, I'm not convinced. Okay, if by the end of this video, you're like, that's fucking cool, you gotta subscribe, right? Or if you're just liking it so far, drop a like, right? You know, not too much commitment, right? It's just like a first date. By the end of the video, you're in bed with me. Maybe that's a bit graphic. but you understand what I'm saying, okay? Anyway, let's get back to the story. So I'm reading this, I'm like, was this the inspiration for Gear 4th? Will Luffy be able to fight underwater at some point using these properties because this is what's used to coat the ships? I'm like, okay, I'm losing my mind here. Let me go back to what Sandman AP is saying. So I go back to Sandman. In 2021, this is a Radio Live program, right? Where one of Oda's friends, a comedian, he said the sun god Nika might be based on himself. Oda was listening on the radio, and then he sent him a message saying, Nika isn't based on you, but the next time Nika appears, he or she will show his face. Right? Just think about it. The next time Nika appears, he or she will show his face. So I was like, okay. Now let's go back to Oda's favorite scene in the story. Oda's favorite scene is the opening scene of Wano. And that's solely because Oda has been waiting to get to Wano. And it resonates a lot more because of how much Wano is important to just the overarching theme of the story. But also, we've gotten hints in recent chapters about Big Mom somewhat hinting that something in regards to the One Piece will be in Wano. And Wano's been hyped up as one of the more important arcs in the entirety of the story. And for the opening scene of Wano to be Oda's favorite arc, you know it would be important, but it does not end there. We're jumping forward to Jump Festa 2021. And this is where Oda revealed about Film Red and Shanks possibly meeting Luffy. But he also says, I'm looking forward to drawing that final scene in the Wano arc. Remember, his favorite scene in the entirety of the story is the opening of Wano. Now he's saying he's looking forward to drawing the final scene in the Wano arc. We know Wano's been hyped up by all the editors. And now going into Wano, we're realizing just how important it is to, again, One Piece. Kaido knowing about Joy Boy, Big Mom being interested in the One Piece. It's all culminating in Wano. But then Oda also says, keep a keen eye, pay attention to Luffy as the protagonist. He says he hopes he can handle Luffy well towards the ending of Wano. That is setting everything up. We're saying, pay attention to Luffy. The Sun God Nika, Joy Boy, Awakening, but we can't forget about the Resin chapter. All of Oda's favorite scenes, it relates to what's going on right now. Wano, Resin, and Sun God Nika. So now it's pretty obvious that Oda's been setting all these things up, slowly but surely walking us to this point. But remember, I talked about chapter 496 and chapter 488, right? In chapter 488, it's called the Song of Life, right? In this chapter, this is where we get the lyrics to Bing Sake. This is where we see the lyrics about the storms, the sounding of the drums, holding your breath, the sun rising. The title of the chapter is called the Song of Life, meaning Oda is directly telling us this song is the song of life. In the recent chapter, Luffy has been resurrected after he apparently died. And now the Song of Life pretty much documents almost line by line how Luffy has gotten back to this point. The dawn, the sun rising again. So when you go through all these different things and how the story is crafted, these puzzle pieces, they're so close, but Oda is so masterful at not giving away too much. So we can't connect them until we get more context. Now with context, all of this looks crazy, but that's not the end because I get tagged in something. And at first it's on Twitter by a user at Barkilo Oilolo. And it's about the resin devil fruit. I'm like, resin devil fruit? I'm already convinced that Luffy has the Hanuman devil fruit. Resin? I'm like, wait, I just read this chapter where Luffy's talking about resin, and I'm like, that's probably the inspiration for Gear 4th, but it's a bit deeper than that because the original post is by a user on Reddit actually named Pringles ___. And they've come up with the Jushi no Mi, which is the resin devil fruit. So I'm sure you guys have seen the cover panel, the cover page, cover spread, chapter 1039, with the Monkey King, Luffy using oil and pointing towards this sap-like substance, which looks like honey. But it comes more into context looking at this person's theory because the first thing they said is Luffy's awakening resembles resin. What is resin? Resin is a chemical compound isolated from plants or animals in nature. I guess going back a little bit before I stumbled into the theory, I googled resin. Resin rubber is basically transparent and flexible with excellent tear strength, and its performance is similar to rubber because resin derives from the sap of the rubber tree, okay? So they're closely connected. Anyway, getting back to this theory by Pringles, he breaks it down by saying, 1, resin has an amber state where it's stretchy, and he mentions Luffy's base form. Resin becomes soft on heating, Gear 2nd. Resin burns with a smoky flame when ignited, red attacks. Resin can be hardened, Gear 4th. Resin is an insulator. Epoxy resins are widely used as insulators, and now. So this is all justifying everything Luffy has done, and I'm like, hold on, this resin stuff could be a thing. Then I see it, he goes on to reference Oda's second favorite scene in the story, where we talked about earlier, the resin. Then he references Oda's first scene in One Piece, Luffy dancing like the sun god Nika. Then he goes on to explain how Luffy's trajectory and how it's changing. Basically, Luffy's melting his resin and he's making it change its trajectory. Doflamingo's talked about Luffy's rubber being weird. Kaido's now referenced Luffy's rubber being weird and Kaido's a Yonko. I remember when Doflamingo first attacked Luffy, I was like, how can't you get through that? It's just rubber. Well, I was wrong. It's not just rubber. It's something more. The theory goes on to talk about how the Gorosei are scared of Luffy because, and I had mentioned this in a previous video, how Luffy's devil fruit could be linked with the Atom Tree or just the origin devil fruits, but he talks about the Sun Tree Eve and Fishman Island, and he believes the devil fruit was also eaten by Sun God Nika. I mean, obviously I believe the same as well, and it was eaten by Joy Boy, but either way, Oda is telling us that resin is important. It's one of his favorite panels. Wano is important, obviously, and Sun God Nika is important, and all of these things are culminating in the Wano arc. So we've already seen Sun God Nika. Obviously, we're in the Wano arc, and we know how important that is. Why is this resin panel the second favorite? Even more important than the Sun God Nika panel with the drums of liberation sound effects being used. This resin panel is more important than that, or Oda likes it more. Well, to me, it's screaming that Oda will reveal Luffy's devil fruit to be resin and not rubber. Listen guys, it's all eerily connected. I can't wait to get to the next chapter. Shout out to Pringles. Shout out to this Twitter user, Barkilololo, because I would not have seen it regardless. I will link everybody's things below. Sandman, Barkilololo, Pringles. But yeah, I've been going down the rabbit hole. I've been up all night creating different chapters, making connections, and I just wanted to get this out to you guys because I think it's actually insane over the years how Oda's taken his time building up this character or building up Luffy's devil fruit where we thought it was rubber, but at the end of it, it's not just rubber. It's special and it could actually be resin. But guys, give me your thoughts. Are you mind blown, right? Are the connections there for you? Have I won over your heart? Do you belong to me yet? If not, you can by hitting that sub button and dropping a like, turning on post notifications. And also follow me on Twitter at BragoDA so I can interact with you there. Follow me on Instagram at bragod.ace. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate you guys all so much. Again, guys, be sure to like and subscribe. Man, and I'll catch all you guys in the next one. Peace.
I start doubting me, I felt lost.